Hey, this is Fling with DFS Army, and we are looking back at Week 15 cash lineup review with profitable week in cash, and we're gonna dissect the process, look at the chalkboard. What was the chalkboard telling us? How did we do on the cheat sheets? And of course, how did the lineup do? What lineup did we choose? Let's do it. All right, let's start with some DFS Army cash wins. Always love to see that some positive ROI. That is a great way to, not win a tournament but still have a positive ROI day. Is playing cash games. Having proper bankroll management, so you can do well in tournaments. Small field. You can even do pretty well in large field tournaments, but you don't win the tournament. You don't finish top 10. You don't finish top 50. So typically you're going to lose most of your money in those large field tournaments. Cash games are how you still have a profitable day. As you can see, Kenny Bell here. Thanks for the cash help. That lineup I made based off Players Club for multipliers was so close to smashing. So, you know, almost a much better day, still trending in the right direction, profitable day. And then Nemitz, thanks to the coaches and the players club, ladders killed it, booster killed it, and cashed it as well. Thank you all. So turned $92 into 216. Love the double up and then some here. So really good stuff. We'll hop into my cash lineup. I've been doing a little bit of split testing and I continued that. These are both hand built lineups. I think I've been kind of wanting to show people, specifically in cash games, is you don't always have to have the perfect lineup to cash, right? In fact, if your process is right, you should continue to be able to hit the cash line, with the same combination of players. You swap out a two versus two here and there, and really you should be able to hit the cash line most weeks, and that's what was able to happen here. My first lineup, I went with Jaden Daniels. Now I wanted Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen, as we're going to see when we get into the cheat sheet, because I liked the spot for them. The Kyler Murray's, the Justin Herberts, the Will Levis. These guys just aren't really cash viable for me. Their floor is not good. Too high variance. So I wanted a Jaden Daniels who would average 20 DraftKings points on the season, or Josh Allen. Now I like the lineup a little bit more with Jaden Daniels. I felt like it was more balanced. So this is what I went with in both of my hand builds. Now we had a really a two versus two here. This lineup had Chase Brown and Cortland Sutton. Now the other lineup had James Conner and T Higgins. I guess it was more of a three versus three of Brown, Sutton, and Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Connor, Higgins, and Ridley. So both lineups made it there. Obviously, the one that had Brian Thomas and James Conner smashed. Those two combined for almost 70 points, just ridiculous. But the Chase Brown lineup was really good as well. Chuba, it's funny because it didn't matter because he was 82% owned. So when we talk about playing high owned guys, the fact that Chuba kind of bombed here and only got 8 points, well, he was 82% owned, so it didn't hurt you. And that's why we typically want to play cash games. We want to play, high floor players, guys in good game scripts who are getting a lot of volume, who are also going to be high owned like Chuba was. Obviously he underperformed, but because so much of the field played him, it didn't hurt. We're only trying to beat 50% of the field. Now, Sutton luckily caught a touchdown late, salvaged the day. Him and Nick just weren't on the same page. It was kind of an off game, a little rusty, it seemed like, coming off the bye week. But Brian Thomas Jr., having him in both the lineups, this made a ton of sense for me with Evan Ingram out. We knew he was going to get a lot of targets, and he's just a beast, and they just fed him, and he produced. So he was great. If you didn't know that one guy was a top 5 pick and one guy was what? I think Brian Thomas is a second round pick, and you just looked at their production this year, you would think Brian Thomas was the guy that went top 5. This lineup was able to survive Marvin Harrison Jr., really 3 snowflakes. Marvin Harrison Jr., Sutton, and Chuba Hubbard. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr., I expected him to be a little bit more owned than this. This is pretty low, 8%. I wouldn't have played him if I would have known that. But yeah, he was cheap enough. I liked him. And then Smart was the punt of the play, punt of the slate at tight end. And as you can see, he was in both lineups. I loved Smart. When we get to my cheat sheet, you'll see there, that he was just a good play with Disley out. He was almost minimum price. So I love that. And then Dowdle here, it was really a three running back week. As you can see, I went with this in both of the builds. I liked either Brown, Chuba, or Dowdle, or Connor, Dowdle, and Chuba. So combination of those players was obviously what I was on to. Now, one thing I like, and you'll see it here, I like punting at tight end and defense when you can, so that the rest of your lineup is well balanced because these positions are so high variance. Even though I got a zero with the Browns in both of these lineups, it did not hurt me. I was able to get that 9 from Smart at near minimum pricing. So that was good. This lineup, the biggest difference, obviously, now Higgins did well. This lineup just was Chuba and really that didn't do well, and obviously the Browns D. But as far as the wide receivers between Brian Thomas Jr. and T. Higgins, that was more than enough. You got 55 points right there. Obviously had Smart, and then Connor really helped carry the lineup. It was, Connor and Thomas, 157 points. That'll get you to the cash line probably 99% of the time. There's those rare slates where, the cash line will be like 180, but most slates that'll definitely get you the cash line, and 138 will too. A lot of slates, more than not. So pretty good week for cash with the lineups that I built, and straight off the chalkboard. And by the way, if you guys like these reviews, let me know. Hit that like button, and comment. Let me know how cash went for you this week. And let's get into the chalkboard. As like I said, it was swelled out who the top guys were on the slate. Now, this is all messed up actually, because this is combined for the Monday slate. So I don't know how much that's going to help us. We will just go ahead and get right into the cheat sheet. I could tell you that Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels were not the two highest owned guys. They were projected for, about less than 10% ownership. Daniels 2%. I think Josh Allen and, tournaments ended up be like 8%. So these guys were not the highest owned, but my process is playing quarterbacks that have a high floor in cash games. And that's what we were able to do. That's what we found with back testing. We want high floor players all across the board, but I'm okay if I like the matchup. They're not going against an elite defense. I like playing guys like Jaden Daniels and Josh Allen because they have a high floor and we're locking in the points. Now, I did have Derrick Henry on my sheet, and I did have Joe Mixon on my sheet. But if you followed the coaches' notes that I posted in the Discord for our DFS Army VIPs, and the VIP breakdown video I did, I basically said these were the guys. You could play Joe Mixon or Derrick Henry if you want to, but Chase Brown, James Conner, Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, I like them because the builds were a little bit more balanced with them in there. Chase Brown was my top guy, 4 stars, as well as Connor. I loved both of these guys, and they ended up doing great. And I liked Chuba and Rico Dowdle as well. Rico Dowdle did very well for cash. Chuba did not, but he was so high owned, it did not matter. And really, the wide receivers overall went really well. The only guy that really bombs was Marvin Harrison Jr. He got like 5 points. Even Thielen got 10 points at 5,400. That's more than enough for cash. Brian Thomas smashed. Judy smashed. McConkey, I think he got 16, 17. That's enough. Sutton did enough to hit the cash line. As you saw, T. Higgins did as well. And so did Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase got like 18 points. So that is enough for cash games. Did really well there. And at tight end, the 3 guys were, they were okay. 3 to pay down options, but Stone Smart was the top guy that I had near minimum price, expected to start. So this was a good play. And then Cardinals and Panthers did the best, obviously, of these three. But even with the Browns, they were the top fantasy points per dollar play. And they actually, by Sunday, they ended up being the highest owned. So I'm always good playing the punt, high owned defense on any slate. And, that's going to lead you in cash games, not necessarily tournaments. You want to fade that in tournaments, but in cash games, that's going to lead you down the right path most of the time. Because as we saw here, I got a 0 for the defense, but it did not matter for our cash game. So that's going to wrap it up for this breakdown. If you like these, make sure you subscribe to the channel. A lot more content coming your way. And by the way, if you want to get access to all these tools, the chalkboard, which you'll normally be able to see the ownership. Obviously, you can see it here for the two gamer that we got going on, but the chalkboard, the cheat sheet, the domination station, where you can see fantasy points per dollar play, top guys that project well, props projections that we have now. We've added to DFS Army, projected ownership, all these tools. You can get access to this with code FantasyFling. This gets you 10% off at VIP subscription. I know NFL is almost over, but this still goes until February. We got NHL right now. These guys have been killing it. I've been playing a little bit of NHL. I don't know anything about NHL DFS, but just following the cheat sheet and using the domination station, the projections, I've actually been profitable so far with NHL, up like $100 on very low volume. So NBA, those guys crush it for NBA. We have so many other sports. So code FantasyFling, that'll get you 10% off a VIP subscription. So that's going to wrap this one up. We got a few more of these. We'll be back next week for another one. Take care, everyone.
Big time, no man, diamonds in my teeth. I got a lot of shine.